Hi everyone, I'm Charvi Jain. I am a psychologist um, practicing in Kolkata. I'm also certified psychotherapist specializing in cognitive behavior therapy. So mental health is a field that I'm extremely passionate about, because of which I also run this psychological wellness center, which I called Over a Cup of Tea. So here I have a team of other psychologists and counselors who help in providing counseling and mental health services, one-on-one counseling and psychotherapeutic services. Um, so I also happen to be a mother of a toddler. Hence, this topic that I am addressing today is something that I have personally also have researched a lot. So before we move forward, I would like to thank BabyChakra for giving me this opportunity, and of course our sponsor for today's chat, which is Nestle's Nangro. And for your information, Nangro is a nutritious milk drink specially designed for children between the age group of 2 to 5 years old, just like your little ones. So moving on, remember building castles with blocks when you were a kid? No, I always wanted to have the tallest castle. So I worked as fast as I could to get as tall as possible. My friend Priyanka, however, she made her castle very different than mine. She took her time, used big blocks to build up the base, then extended her castle to a great height. So, guess whose castle always toppled first? Yes, the get it done quicker builder who thought she knew it all, which is me. So now, all these years later, I know that building on a thin, flimsy foundation is doomed. When we build homes, we need to ensure that the foundation is solid, right? So our children, of course, are no different. We need to ensure that a solid foundation is built so that our children can grow and thrive and not have any hindrance to the endless possibilities that are there in today's times. So let's understand what science has to say about it. Like we've always heard that the first few years are very crucial to a child's development. So why? Like why is that said? Well, you will be surprised to know that actually a toddler's brain is twice as active as an adult brain. So there is so much learning happening, which is why it's very important that we are doing our best as parents to ensure that that optimal growth learning is going on. So, according to neuro and developmental psychology, it is found that a close relationship between the child and the caregiver is the best way to nourish the child's growing brain. Yes, it's as simple as that. So, when a caregiver, that is you, as parents, play with your child, sing, speak, read, or tell a story to your child, it really nurtures her or him from within. Of course, most importantly, when you provide him or her with healthy food, love, and affection, the child's brain grows. So, these early experiences really go a long way in shaping the architecture of the developing brain. So, I really want to congratulate all of you, today's parents, specifically, because I think we as parents are more invested than ever, than all of the parents in the past, aren't we? We want to leave no stones unturned for our child's development. So our chat sponsor Nangro also understands that you want to give your child everything to help build a strong foundation, as the possibilities are endless nowadays for your child, and they can truly be anything. Hence, in this chat, I'm going to highlight certain aspects of parenting, such as nutrition, cognitive development, autonomy and praise, disciplining and limit setting, and of course, emotional development that can aid in creating that strong foundation that you want to build for your child. And I would love to answer all your questions. So feel free to post your doubts and concerns relating to your child. If it comes under my domain, which is of mental health, I will definitely be answering it in these sessions. So keep them coming, right? Those questions. So the first aspect, of course, is nutrition, right? Without nutrition, proper nutrition, be it child's physical development or mental and cognitive development, cannot reach its optimal level if if the child is not getting the right kind. So yes, the cognitive development as well. Did you know that food actually aids brain growth? Well, you're going to find out. So have you all heard of DHA? DHA is one of the most important omega 3 fatty acids. So, science has confirmed that low levels of DHA in early childhood are associated with lower literacy ability, while higher levels are linked to enhanced cognitive development and performance, memory, and speed of performing mental tasks, according to this 2014 study published in journal Nutrients. So even there are other studies and research that confirm that supplementing a child with DHA may help ease the symptoms of even conditions such as ADHD. ADHD is a psychological condition that is very common in young children. The full form is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. So even ADHD, as in the symptoms of ADHD, can be reduced if the child is getting sufficient amount of DHA. Um, so, DHA also contributes to small improvements in psychosocial functioning, emotional problems, and focused attention. So, one recommendation is that ensure that your child is getting enough of DHA. For all of you vegetarian people, I think it's hard to find food that really has DHA naturally. So you might have to depend upon supplements of DHA, or maybe fortified food and drinks which have adequate level of DHA. Yeah. And of course, in the nutrition part, we while everything else is important, like food with variety of nutrients like fruits and vegetables and nuts, ensure that you're providing iron rich food to your child as well. Yes. So I think many of the mothers, I've seen many of the mothers complain about picky eaters. You know how children today, especially, can be very picky in terms of what they want to eat and what they don't want to eat. So maybe I can give you a little bit of tips on how to really handle that. So according to research, parents should avoid making separate meals for children who are picky eaters. So अलग से उनके लिए खाना नहीं बनाइए. But I think the key is how you react as a parent when your kid refuses to eat something. So it's really important to stay calm and avoid threats and punishment, so that there is no increased stress and negative experience about a meal, right? And this actually something that as mothers we become very emotional about. When a child is not eating, we become very anxious, and we use a lot of we just go out of our way to ensure that they have eaten, which sometimes can leave a negative taste in the child's mouth. Right? So what are the things that you can do? I'm just going to give you certain doable things, which is, involve the kid in the process of preparing food. So yeah, just get them to the kitchen and ask them to help you out in some or the other small little ways. And that can really help in the child understanding what the food is and developing some interest in the food. Another trick is, serving unfamiliar food with preferred food, hand in hand. So slowly, maybe never know, the child may develop a preference for this unfamiliar food as well. Another thing that they say is don't let kids snack heavily between meals. Naturally, if they are too full, they are unlikely to want to try newer things or food that they don't like. And also ensure that you're dining with your kids so that you can model eating different foods. And most importantly, make the whole family eat the same meal. Like I said in the beginning, avoid making separate meal for your child. So now let's move on to another important topic, which is cognitive development. By cognitive development, I really mean the development of the mind in how the child thinks. How can we really aid this development? Right. So here I'm going to take up, a reference from Piaget's theory of cognitive development, because it tells us a lot about children between the age group of 2 to 7 years old. So according to his theory, children in this age group, they become increasingly adept at using symbols. So, for example, a child is able to use an object to represent something else, like such as pretending that a broom is a horse. Yeah. So, in this age, role playing becomes very important. Children often, you will see them playing the roles of mommy, or they become daddy and doctor and so many other characters. So, according to most of child development theories, be it theories by Dr. William Sears or the older theories, they all talk about how focusing your complete attention on your child during play, you are going to ensure that your child is becoming cognitively stronger. So this means, and it's important to see, the key is complete attention, because if you're playing with your child but thinking about work, your child will sense that and the interaction will lose value. So playing with your child allows you to get to know your child better. You will become familiar with their temperament, you will bond with your child and find out where they are at developmentally. um, Play also allows children to explore objects. So usually when it comes to fantasy play, it is very, very essential for your child, because they can then learn about the cause and effect and about their world. Also, teaching children about roles in the play, and you will be surprised how much that the kid picks up, because it's in a form of play. So scientifically speaking, play also enhances development in areas such as language development, social development, enhancing their self-esteem, reducing their physical aggression, their social skills, etc., etc., etc. So you do now understand that play is extremely important, and allowing them to play by themselves unstructurally, at the same time giving them some structured playtime, and most importantly ensuring that there is some time in the day when you are playing with your child and giving them that complete 100% attention while you are playing with them. uh, so this brings me to the point when in this age group specifically, autonomy also becomes very, very important. So again, according to this other psychologist, a very renowned one who's known as Eric Erikson, he talks about autonomy a lot, especially in the age group of 18 months to 3 to 5 years old, because he believes that children during this age are focused on developing a sense of personal control over physical skills and a sense of independence. So the child is developing physically and becoming more and more mobile, and discovering that he or she has many skills and abilities, such as putting on clothes, shoes, playing with toys, etc. So such skills, they just illustrate the child's growing sense of independence and autonomy. So, what he says is, if children in this stage are encouraged and supported in their increased independence, they become more confident and secure in their ability to strive in the world. But if children are criticized, overly controlled, and not given the opportunity to assert themselves, they begin to feel inadequate in their ability to survive, and may then become overly dependent upon others, lack self esteem, and feel a sense of shame and doubt in their abilities. So, if I'm give you a small example, rather than putting on a child's clothes, what as parents you can do is having that patience and allowing the child to try until they succeed or they ask for assistance. Another example I can give you from my personal life is, my daughter, she is, wanting to have food on her own using, fork and a spoon. So of course, my natural instincts, initially was to not let her do that. I immediately rushed in and I was like, let me feed you. Because if she tries it, of course it'll get messy, she will throw food around. But that's something that we know that can hinder their curiosity to learn, that curiosity to try things. So it becomes really important for parents to encourage the child to become more independent, while of course at the same time protecting the child so that constant failure is avoided. So this kind of delicate balance is required from the parent. So we must try to not do everything for the child. But of course, if the child fails at a particular task, we must not criticize them for failures and accidents. I hope that makes sense. Um, so when it comes to building their motivation, what are the things that we can do, because at this age we want the child to do the good behavior, we want the child to do the things that will help them learn, that will help them grow. So one thing that can really give a lot of motivation for your child is praise. Yeah, praise, as in using uh, right encouraging words. It can really improve the kid's self-esteem and also increase intrinsic motivation to achieve. So I know that we all praise our children from time to time. However, there is it's important to know how to really praise, because if praise is not perceived as sincere and honest, the children won't actually feel very encouraged. So here I'm just going to give you a little bit of examples about what are the best ways of praising a child that will help motivate them and also build their self-esteem. So first is that it's important, of course, to be sincere. If you're going to use praises that are insincere or too exaggerated, they can be very, very ineffective, and it can also be harmful, because your child is going to know that you are just lying about it. So instead of saying that you are a genius for solving that problem, it'll be better if you put it as you came up with a very good answer for the last question. So a lot of times we label them like, what an angel you are. So a better way of saying it would be, it's generous of you to share that cookie. Yeah. Also, I think the more specific you are about that praise, the more likely that it's going to have a very encouraging effect. So try and avoid sweeping praises. Instead, try to use descriptive and specific comments, like, for example, that's instead of you saying that's awesome, saying that I like the way you're using different colors on these balls. So instead of saying good job, it's just very vague. Saying that you came up with a very thoughtful answer, and I really like the effort behind that. Which brings me to the point that I think the most important point when we praise is we should keep in mind that we are praising their effort and not the effort and the process and not the ability. So, when children are praised for their effort, in doing it, they learn to attribute the success to their effort. Effort, if you see, it is a quality that we have a power over, right? Because we can improve it through hard work and practice. So these children then therefore will focus on developing these skills rather than on pursuing results per se. This can also increase child's intrinsic motivation and persistence, because when a child fails at a particular thing, a child will believe that they have failed because they simply haven't tried hard enough. So then they are motivated to try again, and they tend to improve in performance. But on the other hand, if you praise their ability, abilities are something that we believe that we are already born with. So if a child believes that if the child fails at something, he or she will believe that he doesn't have the ability to do it. So hence they are more likely to quit that particular task. Yeah. So to give you some examples, instead of saying what a smart boy, you can say that I can see that you have worked very hard on this. So again, instead of saying that your ability in puzzle solving is excellent, we can talk about the strategy, which is your strategy in solving this puzzle was excellent. So it's just a shift, so praising the effort and not really the skills or abilities. So I can see that some of you have posted questions. So maybe I can, just refer to the questions and then come back again to talking about, how talking about certain aspects of parenting. So some of you have I have posted questions on pregnancy. However, I would like to say that this chat is exclusively for children between the age group of 2 to maybe 7 years old. So, hence, I would not be taking questions on pregnancy. Um, so, some of the other questions, I think there is someone named Krishna Kotalgi. He is mentioned, my daughter is 5 years old. What are the three main focus areas should I focus in terms of growth, learned, and skills in these challenging times? So thank you, Krishna. I think essentially our session is exactly on this. What can be the focus area as parents, so that we can ensure that we are keeping that in mind, and that'll help our child to grow in the optimal manner. So, like I've mentioned, the first point is, of course, nutrition. I've already covered that. The second point, is the cognition, which is how the child develops cognitively. And, there I mentioned about how play can be very, very important, and how your involvement can also help in the cognitive development a lot. And of course, the other aspects involve, social development, emotional development of a child, disciplining the child, ensuring that you are inculcating values in the child. So these are the topics that I will be addressing now. So you may continue watching me, and I'm sure you'll get your answers. There's another question which is on the similar lines, which is given by Durga Salvi, and she says that, hi Charvi, 3-year-old baby की अच्छी growth के लिए मुझे क्या करना चाहिए? So Durga, I think you will also, I'm sure by now you must have gotten your answer, and I'm going to be addressing some more areas and topics even now. So coming back. And others who are watching me, please keep posting your questions so that your specific query can be addressed as well. In case you don't find me to address any particular topic in this chat, which is why it'll be important for you to post that question right here so that I can address it. So I think my next topic that I'm focusing on is disciplining and limit setting, because a lot of parents, they tend to be confused as to how much to really discipline, where to draw that line, what behaviors to limit set, and what to let it go. There's a thin line between giving them that autonomy and setting some limit, right? So let's understand that. So firstly, we all have children who show some sign of temper tantrum. So whenever that happens, I think, or be it any kind of behavior that that shows a lot of emotions, or that basically is not a behavior that we want to encourage. We want to first acknowledge the emotion behind the misbehavior. So it really helps when we can just acknowledge that emotion and help our child label it. So as parents, of course, we need to also ensure that the child understands why certain behaviors are inappropriate and can't be tolerated. And I think a lot of us have already started doing that. Instead of saying that, no, you can't do it, it always helps to give a reason behind why you can't do it. So then you can probably guide the child into thinking of a more appropriate way to handle these negative feelings. So, for example, saying that, acknowledging their emotion. For example, you are mad that, that this person took that game away from you. I would be too, but it is not okay for you to hit him. So, what can you do instead? So, do you realize in this statement, firstly, that you are acknowledging the child's emotion, that you are angry, you're mad that this friend of yours took that game away from you. And then you are stating that how the fact that he or she is feeling angry is valid by saying that I would be too, but it is not okay for you to hit him. So now here you are explaining why certain behavior is inappropriate. And then you're questioning him that what can you do instead? So you're basically asking him maybe other ways that he or she can use to really express that anger. So another example, if you want, it's okay for you to feel jealous because your sister jumped into the front seat of the car before you did, but it is not okay for you to call her nasty names. So can you think of a different way to deal with your feelings? So similarly here also there are three parts to it. Feeling, you're first giving some words to that feeling, you're acknowledging it, and then you're talking about how this behavior is inappropriate, and you are asking the child about what can be a different behavior that he or she can do to express that same feeling. So now, understanding, what are the behavior that we need to limit. So here I think it is essential for us to remember that we must limit acts and not wishes or feelings, and this is very essential in developing that strong emotional bond with your child, because feelings are something which will not disappear, right? So if parents tell children that stop crying or that you shouldn't feel that way, uh, we don't have a switch on or off button, and hence the child will also know what to do with that feeling and will be extremely confused. So it's important to not tell the child how he or she should feel. So this should always be about behavior and action. So now understanding what kind of behaviors you should limit. So firstly, of course, any behavior which is based on your own values. If there's anything that you feel is against your value, go ahead, tell them that why they need to not do that particular behavior. And I think if we want to easily categorize it, we can categorize these behaviors into these three zones. So green zone can be behaviors which are desired, which we want our children to do more, so use praises here to motivate them to do more of this. Yellow zone can be about that can be for misbehavior, which is not sanctioned, but it's tolerated because maybe the child is not well, or because the child is too young right now to really understand the repercussions of this behavior. So basically this is something that you don't want to promote and encourage, but you realize that it's the age group of the child is such that you may want to let it go, or the child is really unwell that you may want to let it go, right? So this is the exceptional circumstances. And now coming to red zone, which is behavior that can't be tolerated no matter what. So that these behaviors can be dangerous to the child's well-being or others. It can be illegal, immoral, unethical, or socially unacceptable. So what you can do is you can actually reflect and think about your own zones, like what behavior will you put in your green zone, what behavior will you put in your yellow and red zone. This will just give you a lot of clarity when you're dealing with the child, and hence the child will also be very, very clear about what repercussions to expect when he or she does a particular behavior. So yeah, so which gets me to say that yes, there has to be consequences for good behavior, which is positive attention, praise, privileges, and consequences for bad behavior, which is devoiding them of attention, loss of privileges, etc. So consequences must be consistent, and it should be relating to their misbehavior for the most amount of for getting the best result out of it, right? So a lot of people, I mean parents, they ask me if spanking is okay. Because as a child maybe they have been spanked and they believe that they turned out okay. So is spanking okay? So to just think about it logically, I think threat of spanking really works well in the short term, but without discussion, without discussion and cutting off the chances to teach child self-control and problem solving, you just end up spanking. It can not maybe run in the long run, right? Because the child does not know why this behavior is not okay. And most often, spanking often backfires because it makes the kid very powerless. They feel very unfairly treated, and they may start having a lot of resentment towards their parents. So when they are growing up, they might likely to think more about revenge than really self improvement. And plus the sense of humiliation, it may just cause them to do more wrongdoing. So yes, I think most studies now, they have confirmed that spanking is detrimental to your child, so avoid doing it as much as possible. So now I think coming to the most to my last topic, but I think a very essential topic, which is on emotional bonding and development. And of course, I think in the growing years of the child, we I think even in terms of most developmental theories that exist, they talk about how attachment with the caregiver, a secure attachment with the caregiver, becomes so important in the child's healthy growth. So, which brings me to say that that emotional bonding that a child can have with you, it can become really important in ensuring that the child is growing with the most solid foundation. Yes, so this happens to be the most essential ingredient in building that strong foundation. So, how you can do that is, of course, all of the above things that I mentioned, but also about communicating well with them, ensuring that you are their confidant, which oftentimes I hear complaints from parents that their child does not want to communicate with them. So if that is happening with you, then it'll be important to recognize that what is really going on. Do you think that your response or reaction to certain things may be responsible for your child to withdraw or close up in not talking to you about it? I think it might be time to reflect on that a little bit. What usually happens is, I'm just going to give you some examples that, as parents, we are very, very habituated to react to a child in certain ways when they are in distress. For example, when they are feeling disappointed, angry, worried, or hurt, they desperately need to find solace in their parents. However, we as parents, we do not like to see our kid being so negative. So the first thing we do is tell our child to not feel that way. And this is, the error that we make, because this causes the child to feel ashamed and embarrassed about how they feel. So which essentially compounds, the hurt that they're feeling. So it's really important that we acknowledge what they are really feeling, so that we are able to show that we are understanding what they are feeling, right? uh, so this will help them to get out of their shell and probably share with you once they know that you are understanding them. So firstly, let's do away with the no-nos, which is certain statements that we make are: don't get angry, don't think like that, don't stress, don't be too sensitive, right? Can you see that these are things that we often say? Is it Are these statements ringing a bell? So instead of telling them to not feel a certain way, it'll be important to validate their feelings, just like we talked about in terms of disciplining and limit settings, what we need to do. Similarly, this is something when they are distressed, we need to do that. It's the same thing. So, certain statements that can validate feelings are, if I had been in this place, I would be upset too, or I understand what you're feeling. You have every right to be mad. Or once you give your child so once you give your child a solid dose of empathy, your child will feel connected to you and will be more understanding. So this means that they will immediately feel better and will need your help in solving the problem. And in most cases, empathy is what they need to feel better. Yes, it's as simple as that. So the simple fact that their parents understood how they feel is sometimes enough to make them feel safe and secure. Empathy also, in a very, very broader way, it really changes the way we parent, and it changes our relationship with our children. So when we are able to cognitively understand them and we are able to tolerate our child's perspective, uh, it's less likely that you as a parent will also become inappropriately angry or aggressive. And when you develop this emotional empathy, it really makes you very well attuned to your child's inner emotional world. What's more is that children really learn from parents. I mean, in terms of what we call as mirroring, they mirror how we are, our reactions to things, and how we really deal with certain experiences. So when we are displaying empathy, they are also more likely to display empathy with others around them. So they are more likely to be better in terms of making social bonds, be it at school with other children or with other older adults. So if you want your child to have better way in dealing with emotions, to be more resilient, I think it's very important for us to display empathy, for us to teach empathy to a child, because that can take a long way in building the child that foundation of emotional strength. uh, so these according to me were like the essential areas for having that foundation. Let's see if there are other questions, and if you have any questions right now, also feel free to post them so that I can answer it right now. um, so again, I can see a lot of questions are relating to pregnancy. um, it would be nice if I can have more questions relating to children in the age group of 2 to 7 years old, because I don't think I will be adept to answer questions relating to pregnancy. Um, mm, mm, mm. I'm going to wait for another couple of minutes. So if I see any questions relating to my domain, then I'll continue answering them. If you have any concerns relating to your growing child, please feel free to post now. So looks like I think you've gotten the gist of what I wanted to say. In case you happen to have any other questions, feel free to post on this chat and I can comment even after ending this chat. All right. So thank you so much for listening to me, and have a great week ahead. See you then.